All right, so on today's podcast, we are interviewing an author, salon owner, educator, and all-around badass, one of my inspirations, Elaine Travis from Expert Color Solutions.
Yes.
So welcome, Elaine.
Thank you. That's a hell of an introduction. I'll take it.
Perfect. Yes. I'm a huge fan of yours.
Biggest fan right here, just so you know.
So I'm very nervous. I'm so excited to have you
on. Don't be nervous. We're just girlfriends talking about hair color. Doesn't get any better.
Chatting over a beer and a latte.
You guys stuck with your beer, huh? You didn't come over to the latte side?
This is actually the only way we can podcast.
Yeah. This is how we do it.
Your liquid courage is your beer. That's so funny.
For sure.
Mine would have to be rated completely different if I started adding alcohol in. I think I'm baudy enough with coffee.
We don't let ourselves, we have our first beer during the podcast because that is what would happen.
Totally. we try to limit ourselves to a 10 word swear word limit.
That's right.
So
one way or another.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one for me.
It's just between us. You can swear all you
go
want.
ahead.
Okay. I get an unlimited amount of swear words.
That's right.
So we're just going to get into
some questions.
I just want to let you know that I listened to your interview from On Your Day Off podcast, and I totally related to you when you said that you aren't the standard hairdresser. Like you don't feel like you're funky enough or edgy enough. That is like literally the story of my life. Like I live in sweatpants and hoodies, and I have to force myself to put makeup on and put on like a decent outfit to come to work every day. And I'm going to the BTC Awards this year. Have you ever been to that?
I've been to one when it used to be part of the BTC show. I think they separate it now where you have an option to go. It used to be all part of it.
I'm going to the awards and then the show. But I'm having a meltdown because I'm like, I'm going to be with all these super trendy, like fashionable, in style, like on trend hairstylists. And so I'm like, I have to go shopping. But the issue is I don't know how to do this.
Yeah,
like,
what is a hairstylist? What is the vibe?
What would be your tip for that? Like, is it just don't give a fuck? Like, is that...
Honestly, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I'm going to use my first curse word.
Okay.
I think the more that you try and be someone that you think that other people are expecting you to be. I just was talking on another interview, and I said the biggest thing I learned in my now 50s is that when you walk into a room, you have the nervous butterflies and the feeling that like everyone's judging what you have on, how your hair looks, whether you look good or not. If there's something stuck in your teeth, I'm always worried about the spinach in the teeth and all that. All the time because it's your biggest fear. So things that you concentrate on expand, know that. So when you're worried about the spinach, it's sure to be there. So you're walking into a party and you have all this crap that you're bringing into the room. And every single person that you presume is judging you has the same story in their head. So they're thinking, do I look okay? I should have ironed this before I got here. Is there something on my butt? I feel like I sat in something when I sat in that chair. Like they're thinking the same damn shit.
Yeah.
So if you knew that, you wouldn't go on a special shopping trip. You wouldn't buy a special outfit. You would show up as the beautiful woman that you are on a daily, being in your best self. Like we all have that outfit that we feel so great in. Yeah. Wear that outfit that you already felt that feeling in. Don't get a new outfit. Just be you. And when you walk into the room, you have to do the absolute like opposite of what you would normally do. That's the advice I give to everybody. If you're usually an introvert and you're shy and you cling to the side wall and you just observe and watch everybody else, walk in there with the biggest smile and walk up to somebody and shake their hand and introduce yourself like you would never have done before. And I promise that'll be the best conversation you've ever had. Like when you put yourself out there.
That is what I do. I avoid all social interaction.
Yeah. Do you find that's really good advice? Do you find that translates to like behind the chair work as well? So kind of fake it till you make it. If you're kind of nervous about doing things, just go in and be confident and it will.
I have a mixed answer to that because the fake it till you make it can get tricky because it's being somebody that you're not. I'm all about being your authentic self. So be yourself, but your most confident self. Don't be fake. Like I've seen that in the salon where like a girl worked for me. She was like covered in tattoos, super edgy, shaved underneath her hair. All that stuff was going on behind the scenes. But in the salon, she would wear like a buttoned up Ann Taylor twin set with a set strand of pearls. And she would, put these soft curls in her hair, and she would talk really sweet and be this totally different person.
Right.
And then as soon as her last person would leave, she'd be like, oh, thank God. And the cigarette would come out, and she'd go for the beer. And I was like, wow, that's exhausting that she feels like she has to be two people. It's like being bipolar on the regular. Like, that's not cool. So she did well at my salon, and the clients loved her, but they loved fake her. As soon as she became real her, it didn't go so well because she was letting the real her come out, and the real her called out all the time, showed up late, was always hungover. You know what I mean? Like, so be yourself, be the best version of yourself. But I absolutely believe that in the beginning, when you don't feel confident, behave confidently.
Right.
So there's a difference between that, It makes it much easier to build a book when you behave as your best authentic self and show up true and genuine, but reliable, be on time, don't make them wait. Like, you have to have that good work ethic no matter what your vibe is, whether you're hip and trendy or, buttoned up pearls and the sweater. You need to make sure that you always respect the client's time. The number one reason clients will leave you is because you made them wait. You squeezed in two people in between their appointment. Like, nobody has time for that anymore, especially now. This climate right now with clients, they're trying to jam 14 things into a 5-minute window, and waiting is not one of them. So just having that really strong work ethic, no matter what you look like brand wise, is hugely important, and making the visit about the client. Like, there's so many times that I've had somebody working with me on my staff that could not leave it at the door. And they were never as successful as the ones that could. Like, nobody has ever had more shit going on than me. At one point, I had 2 salons, 2 little kids, a husband, you name it. It was going on. But when I was behind that chair, that's my 2x2 stage. I'm on. I'm like, hey, did you hear about that movie? Blah, 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 blah. Like, it was not. My daughter projectile vomited all over me last night, and I was up all night changing sheets. Like, they don't want to hear that, you know? And
Taylor, one time when she was super pregnant, she puked
on the way here,
on her way to work, like on herself in her vehicle, and it didn't matter. She fucking rolled in here.
Smile on my face.
And she just told everyone, just so you know, I just puked in my car.
Not my clients.
No, us, the staff, and then she just went about her day, like it never happened.
I agree with you, Elaine. I think that's super important, and that's great for sure. So, kind of touching on that, is that sort of something that you inspired the people that you were training to do? Is that kind of one of the major things that you sort of were educating them on, was being able to leave it at home and kind of putting on that smile and customer service?
Absolutely. I always, to this day, and from the time that I became a salon owner, I think that emotional intelligence and your personality and your behaviors and everything about you is 80% of your success behind the chair. Only 20% is skill. And I say that all the time, and I 100% stand behind that. After having many different, team members coming and going, it's so apparent to me when someone doesn't have the confidence, the work ethic, all of those bones in place. You can be the best cutter, color, straightener, updoer, all those things can happen, and you're never going to have raving fans and a big clientele because your energy just sucks, and people just can feel that the second they sit in your chair. I've had people say to me, with different girls along the way, like, I'll run into them. I'm like, where have you been? You haven't been in. And they're like, listen, nothing against you, but when I sat in that girl's chair and I had to listen to all her crap, like, I was having a great day until I got there. And that's like the worst thing you can say to me, is that we ruined your day, because I want people to come in and feel like it's their second place. It's their Starbucks. They're like their home away from home, where they just feel so comfortable and so uplifted and made to feel and look prettier. I don't want them leaving with somebody on my staff's bullshit and baggage. That's not what I want. So that's really been the biggest, and I can tell as soon as I hire somebody, I mean, within 3 days, my husband will say, I've been hearing that girl's name an awful lot. Like if he starts hearing somebody's name in the first 3 days, they're not going to make it past 2 weeks. Like they started calling me Trump. I fired everybody. It was like, yeah, you're fired. Just get out.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. Like that's it then? Like
that's it. And I used to, my biggest downfall, I'm a major empath. Like I have such empathy for everybody, and I want to fix everybody. And, you know, I know what the person needs, and I want to like crack open my head and brain dump it into them, but they're not ready to hear it. And that's been the biggest lesson for me, especially now as a full-time educator, is I know what I need to help this person with, but I have to allow them the space to be ready for it. That's so difficult, you know. It's like I can see it so clearly that I'm like, I feel like Hansel and Gretel. I'm like, look at all the crumbs. I'm taking you quickly on this journey. And they're just like, no, not feeling it, feeling it at all. So
do you feel like in this industry that there are more people that are open to kind of hearing that sort of information, or do you feel like people want to do their own thing and they don't really want to follow that advice?
I think the second one, I think it's gotten even worse with, and no offense, you girls are young and beautiful, so I'm guessing you're millennials. You're not millennials?
No.
Are you millennials? No?
I am. But
she is. Okay. I'm not.
What are you? What was the generation before? Are you Generation X? How old are you?
Am I? 32.
32, yeah.
30, and that's when does millennial start? What's the oldest millennial right now?
I think it's 88. Isn't it?
Okay, so I'm a year.
She's on the cusp.
Early.
You're on the cusp. You only have a little bit of anger in you. No, you know what? Everybody's bitching about the millennials. Here's the deal. I like most of what's going on with the new millennial young person who is filled with so much empowerment that we didn't have in my generation. My generation was like, out of my high school class, I'm really aging myself now. It was like a big deal for girls to be going to college. Like that's how different it was. Like now it's like, you don't go to college, you don't get a job, you don't do it if you're not going to get into a trade. So for me, you know, we didn't always get a trophy, and our coach told us when we were an asshole, like they didn't sugarcoat everything.
We talk about it all the time. This is what's wrong.
Yeah,
it is. It really is. We got a good crack on the ass when we did something we weren't supposed to do.
Have to do better.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the way to get better for sure.
Yeah, and it wasn't abusive in any way. Like it wasn't, you know, I don't feel like I was beaten and damaged. I feel like you did something crazy and screwed up, you got punished for it. And now this whole, like, it kind of started with Oprah, who I love. You know, she started talking about spirituality, and your thoughts create your actions, which create your circumstances. And I love that millennials understand that more. Like my kids understand more about that than I ever have or will. So I love that. But the whole, there's no score in sports. Like my son will be playing basketball and they're like, oh, we don't keep score. And I'm like, everybody knows what the score of that game was. Yeah. Like everyone watching is keeping score. So just because the kids thought that there was no score, and then everybody gets a trophy, everybody's great. You're so amazing, Johnny. Johnny, you are the most handsome, wonderful, fabulous human being that ever walked the earth. And then little Johnny becomes a little dick. Like he's an asshole, and nobody wants to be his friend, and nobody wants to work with him. And it's just like, whoa, we need to fix this.
Yeah.
So I think the combination of the whole millennial thing with everybody got a trophy, and the freedom of solopreneurship, suites, renting chairs, all of that is amazing. Like when I was in the trenches, I was like, oh, I would be in the salon. I worked for this big corporate salon, and I would often say, God, if I could just have just my chair and just my client. I don't want to hear your shit. I don't want to hear Debbie Downer. I don't want to hear Mrs. Know-It-All. I don't want all that noise. I just want me and my client. That didn't happen back then. This was 1987, 88. So I stuck it out. And then I was like, I need more. I can't just keep doing this. You know, I'm not making any money. This is awful. And I met this educator who was with Clara all the time. And she said, honestly, you should just go find a really small space and just be by yourself. So I actually invented the solo suite before it was a solo suite. So back in 89 at 22 years old, I found a 350 square foot space and made it my own. And I loved it. And I honestly probably made more money then than I do right now because everything was just easy. Right. All my overhead was low. I didn't have to advertise. It was all word of mouth. Everything was great. But the important factor is that was after being an apprentice and watching someone who knew what they were doing and handing them foils and asking questions for like over a year before I did that. So I think what's happening now, I know myself, like I go to any beauty school that will invite me and let me speak to their students, which by the way is not a lot. And that's a whole other conversation. I don't get it. I'm not charging them anything. I call and I say, I just want to come and do some speaking and some motivation to try to get everybody to not quit. Because there's a statistic right now, 5%, only 5% of people that are licensed renew after 1 year. Out of everyone that gets a license, 5%.
That is
so people in beauty school said to me, I'm never going and working in a salon. I'm going right into a suite. And I'm thinking, honey, I just tried to go into a suite after 33 years and owning a salon for 30 years. I moved to Florida and the first thing I did was share a suite because I had no clientele. So I found a girl that wanted to share. I signed up for 3 days a week and I figured I'll slowly start to work my way into doing clients here.
Right.
It was not easy. And I know more. I have more maturity. I'm not shy. I'll walk up to a stranger and say, hi, I want to do your hair. Like all the bones were in place, but I was like, this is freaking hard. Like you can't just start that way. So I spend way too much time on the forums. I really need a new hobby, but I see over and over again, people like, I can't pay my rent. And I'm like, honey, what were you thinking? Like when you're not busy in a salon, you go home with $300 in your pocket because you at least got tips and you at least got commission on something.
Right.
So 50% of something is something, but paying rent and not having revenue, you're in the hole $700-800 a month. I don't get it. I don't get where the thought process is going.
Yeah, the misconception of the fact that you're going to get out of hair school and you're just going to be making money. I don't understand it. I never thought that when I got out of hair school. I said it was going to be 5 years before I was going to be taking care of myself.
I think it kind of wraps back around to like what you said about the millennials, and there's not really much of like a teamwork culture anymore.
Well, and instant gratification.
Yeah.
With everything, right? Yeah. Like with just the way the world functions.
They're their own boss.
Everything is instant.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
if it doesn't happen right away, it's not worth it's not worth doing.
We actually have kind of a similar experience. I used to work with Danielle at this studio, but there's like a more extensive training program. So this is where I did my apprenticeship, and you learn so much, but there's so many girls that come in and then stay for a few weeks and they don't want to put the time in.
What happened to getting the bartending job? Like I always had two jobs. I still have two jobs, you know? I'm like, what's wrong with, hanging out and living your passion? It's like the starving artist. If you love to be an artist and you know you're not getting paid for your paintings, you paint at night and you waitress during the day, or you're like, what happened to that? Like you have to, it makes you like right now I have a convertible that's a 2-seater Lexus sweet ass convertible, but it's a 2002. It's a 2002 and I'm 52 years old and I'm like, I feel like it took me so long to get that dream car, and it's still not a brand new whatever, you know what I mean? Like there's levels, and if you lose the ability to strive for what's next and you want it so quick, it's like heroin, people like do heroin and it's like, woo, oh my gosh, for what, 10 minutes?
That's right.
And then they need to do it again. So it's like,
from what I hear.
Yeah.
From what I hear is right. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't even get me to drink a beer. You think I'm shooting up? So it's like that again, it goes back to that instant gratification and that thrill and that like, what's next? And scratching your way through all the phases. To me now, as an older woman with kids, when I overgive to my kids and I try to keep them from the battle wounds and bruises, I'm not doing them any favors. They need to get cut on the way. They need to skin their knees and figure it the hell out. I keep trying to put them in that plastic bubble, Michael Jackson bubble, and be like, okay, I'm going to make sure that nothing ever happens to you. And, you know, I've taken them to beautiful, wonderful hotels. And then their friends are like, she's not going to want to go on a backpacking trip and live in a hostel. But fortunately, my daughter can do both. Like, she's very adaptive and can do both.
Speaking of that, I was going to say I would be happy if you adopted me, because the other thing I loved about your interview on your day off was the fact that you said you were going to basically pay for your daughter to not go to college. And everything you were offering was amazing, and I would totally have accepted that as a.
But would you though? Would you really though? Because everybody says that. Yeah, you know what? It's really funny because I did it twice. So for those of you listening or watching, whichever it is, after this is done, I was interviewed on the Your Day Off podcast, and my daughter happened to be with me because she comes to all of my shows. She's my tech savvy one that does my projector. And side note, she can formulate color, and she never went to beauty school because she's come to so many of my classes that she formulates the waitress at lunch. So that's a side note. So Tony and Corey were like, hey, Bryn, do you want to get in on the interview? And she's kind of like, what the heck do I have to say about this? Like, I'm just the daughter. So we both have our little headsets on, and we're doing the interview, and we're laughing. It's very casual and fun. And we talked about exactly what you're referencing, that I said, I believe that college is an amazing opportunity for someone who is on the path of a doctor, a lawyer, a physician's assistant, a nurse, like things that require the education and the degree to pass a license to have that happen. I think overall general business, and in my daughter and son's case, entrepreneurship is their major. I think as someone who started a business at 22 and who always had 2 and 3 jobs, I think the School of Hard Knocks is the best way to learn in business. I don't think college could really prepare you for that. So my daughter was very conflicted when she was graduating high school and didn't know where she wanted to go or what she wanted to do. And I said, I'm so burned out from the salon of being the boss. Like, I still to this day, 33 years in, love physically doing hair. I love my clients. I love everything about hair color. I eat, sleep, and breathe hair color. Right. I do not like inventory, payroll, one-on-ones, spreadsheets, dealing with the distributor, dealing with the phone company, dealing with the internet, going out, all that crap. So she has more of a business mind. And I said, you're very mature. You grew up in this business. If you choose not to go to college, I think that every child, not just my own, I think every child needs 1 year between high school and college. I think everyone should have a gap year, 100%, no matter what, even if you want to be doctor, lawyer, architect, all that. So I said, I'm so sure that this is your path that I will fund your entire year, your gap year, and you can go anywhere on the planet. Anywhere. No, like, and I will pay for every meal, every flight, every single thing that you want to do for an entire year. And at the end of that year, if you still in your heart feel like college is the way to go, we'll make it work. I'll find the money to pay for college because I just blew a lot of money on that year.
Right.
I said, but if you decide not to go to college, when you come home from your year of travel, I will lease you a brand new C-Class Mercedes, because she was obsessed with some of the time. And you will move into the apartment above the salon rent-free, and I will pay you $50,000 a year to start as the business manager, and you can only go up from there. And she said, I want to go to college. All my friends are going to college. So now I have to give you the update. So fast forward, she goes to 4 years of Penn State, damages her liver greatly.
Yeah.
And, drinking and too much fun and all that. Meets a great group of girls. Her roommates were the gift that college gave us. I basically bought her friends for $200,000 of education. I got her great best friends.
Yeah, that's true. It's not
so that's the only thing I don't regret from that whole thing. But she gets out of college and she feels like, oh my God, why did I not take that year? Like, she has that itch to travel. She's not settled. She doesn't know what she wants to be or do.
Right.
So she says to me one day, I'm going to go teach English in Thailand for 6 months. And I'm not asking for your permission. I'm telling you that that's what I'm doing. And I was like, oh, okay. Again, with the millennial, right? So then I said, well, who's funding all of this? Who's paying for your flight? Who's paying your rent on the apartment? Because now the apartment's not free. You picked college. You took the wrong curtain on The Price is Right. So you picked college. So now you got to pay for that. So I said, you still have your rent. You have your health insurance, your car insurance. You have the flights. You're going to have all your meals. I'm like, are they paying you enough for that? I'll just figure it out. So figuring it out was we ended up, funding all of that. But she did pay us back every penny. But she felt all like, I got this and all. But you don't. But the moral of the story is you still need your parents. You still need your support system. But she did pay us back. It took her forever on Thai wages.
And I think, and that's kind of like you didn't just give her all of that without teaching her a lesson. Yes. So kind of tying back into the school of hard knocks, right? If you borrow money, you got to pay for it. Or if you want to do these things, it's up to you. That's amazing.
Yeah. So now guess where she is? Owning my salon.
That's right. Who wouldn't want to do that?
So January of this year, we came full circle after 4 years of college, 6 months in Thailand, and I think 2 years of managing another business. I was ready to go. And for anyone listening, selling a salon is the hardest thing you will ever do in your entire life. It's nearly impossible. I've met one person in my 33 years that had a success story and a happy run, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow story. One. And I know a lot of hair salon owners and a lot of hairdressers. So nobody wanted the responsibility. They didn't want, they all wanted to stay working there, but nobody wanted to be the head honcho. It was like all Indians with no chief. So I was at the point where I just said, you know what, I'm just going to move anyway and just try to run it remotely because I have a great staff. She loves it. She's doing really well. And what's nice is she's not in the trenches working alongside everyone. She's not a hairdresser, and she does have that business background. So the college paid off in that she can separate herself from the emotion of running a business. And my experience and every negative thing that ever happened to me as an owner was keeping the emotion into it and not separating business from.
Agree with you more with that.
Yeah.
Could not agree more.
Do you feel like that might be one of the reasons why a lot of people don't have a success story for selling their salon is because they are so emotionally invested in it?
My salon was my first baby. Mm-hmm. I had my salon before I even got married, before I had any kids. And unfortunately, I'm starting to write again. And I just wrote this yesterday. I'm like, my kids missed a lot of me because that first baby still was my baby.
You are just hitting me right in the feels, Elaine.
Yeah. It's hard because it's hard to, when you have so much passion for something, I didn't want to lose that passion. I wanted to love on my business as much as my kids. But when I look back, and this is why I get so fired up on the forums, because people are like, I can't. When I see I can't, I just want to throat punch somebody because there is no such thing, and the 3 words, I feel bad. I feel bad. I'm like, no, your client doesn't feel bad asking you to do that inappropriate thing. No. Why are you feeling bad saying hell to the no?
Elaine, I just had my second baby 6 weeks ago.
Oh, you look great.
Yeah. But you're speaking right to me because I feel so bad that in Canada we can actually get up to 18 months of paid maternity leave.
Oh my gosh, I'm moving.
Yeah. I know, but I have my first client on Tuesday because I feel bad, and she said she can't get her hair cut by anyone else. So here I am leaving, my infant, and then I have a 2-year-old, and I love her, but like we talked about before on the podcast, I'm kind of pissed off. It's not her fault. I did this to myself. But am I going to really be able to go in and give her the best experience?
No, you're going to be pissed off the whole time.
Yeah, I want to be at home with my baby.
Yeah.
So you're right. We need to stop feeling bad.
Yes. I don't feel bad.
Elaine, you're so right. She doesn't care.
No, I don't feel bad. I always say I'm not a heart surgeon.
No. Oh.
I'm not saving anybody's lives. If I can't cut their hair, or if they can't afford to come here, or any reason that they can't have their hair done by me, there is 1 million other hairdressers that can do their hair.
Oh,
I so love and applaud that, because here's the deal. I had a very, she's dead. I can't describe her the way I want to. That's horrible. But she was not.
No, it's tough when they're dead.
I know.
Yeah, she was not a positive mentor in any way, but I worked beside her long enough to get little nuggets of her trying to leave me the breadcrumbs, Hansel and Gretel style. Like she just went about it the wrong way, I think. And I said to her, you know, I would see all these famous hairdressers and they would be in all the magazines and at the shows up on the stage. And I looked up to them and I said, oh, every person that I admire studied at Vidal Sassoon Academy. Yeah. And I'm like, I want to go so bad, but I can't be away from my clientele for long enough because you needed to do like a 4-week, 6-week, like it's not a one-day thing. It's like a cultural thing. You immerse yourself in it. So she said to me, darling, she was from Germany, darling, please don't kid yourself. Everyone is replaceable. Everyone. I don't know why you think you're, and I was like, oh, mama. Yeah. And I was very green. I was literally like 6 months out of beauty school when she said that to me. And I was like hurt by that because I'm like, my clients love me and they don't want to go to any, exactly how you're feeling, Taylor. Like, oh, no one does it like me and they love me. And if I leave, they're going to go to somebody else, and that fear and that, you know, no confidence. And God, when I look back, you know, the very people that I bent over backwards, forwards, and in between for. Yeah. I've been living in Florida for 7 months. One person reached out and said, hey, how are you? You made such a big, you know, move. We miss you. How's it? One person. You can imagine how many people's lives I touched on the daily, whether I did their physical hair or I was just that presence. I was the heartbeat of the salon. Oh, it's so quiet when Elaine's not here and she's so entertaining and we love Elaine. Well, when I go back, I just went back 2 weeks ago. My daughter said to me, you know, oh, so-and-so is going on vacation. It's kind of quiet at the salon. Things are quiet here. It's really hot in Florida. So I was like, you know what? I'll come home and work for a week so that we keep the clients on track. I'll get to reconnect with some of them and it'll keep them on their schedule. So I looked forward to it. I got in there and I got to tell you, it was like people walked in the door and it was like a dog that's always laying there. They kind of just stepped over me and were like, oh, she's here. What's that all about? Like, it was no big deal. I expected the like, oh my gosh, hi, how are you?
No.
And
people
wow, what?
No, I say this all the time. It's like us as hairstylists feel like we have this real, true connection with our clients. Like they're literally have become our friends. And in a sense, they do. You see them all the time. You know about their lives, whatever. They will not hesitate. So I have made a couple price increases in the last 2 years just because of my schedule. Every single time I get this feeling, I'm like, oh my God, like I know this person is going to be like upset about it. Like I know this, I know that. They will go to the next hairdresser. Yeah, you were their next hairdresser. They've had their hair done by someone else before. Yeah. You were already the next hairdresser. You are not their one and only. That's why I raise my prices instead of stop taking clients, because you will always need new clients. People will always leave.
Yeah, I totally disagree with that bold, you know, Instagram.
I'm not taking any more.
I am not taking it all in caps. No new clients. Book salad.
Suicide. Don't do it. Don't do it. Raise your 100%. Price.
Yep.
And I find people too, like when they get so busy, they think it's amazing that they're booking into like the new year, for example, which, you know what, that's great. But at the same time, you're turning away all these new clients. Like you're not giving yourself any time to go to classes or to grow.
Yeah.
Like,
or to book like models to come in to do something. And also you're setting yourself up for a massive number of no-shows.
I mean, pre-booking, you would say to Elaine, is really important.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah. I pre-book. Yeah, and people book.
Yeah, on that note, something that I wanted to share, which I just shared also on a forum, is the one thing I noticed. I love that we do online booking now. I think it's great. We have our schedule. I keep saying I'm no longer there, but we have, you know, the ability to have our world right on our phone, which is amazing because before, you know, I live where it snowed a lot. So if it snowed, you were like, you have to get to the salon to be able to call the people to say you're not coming in. You're trudging through snow to do all that. So there's so many, way more many pros than cons. But one of the cons is we've spoiled our clients, and they know they can book online, and our pre-booking numbers are in the toilet since doing online booking. That's the only negative thing, because people knew we were always a really busy salon and we are specialized. So you have one person color and one person cut. So to be able to get both of those people to line up where your 12 o'clock color was going to your 1 o'clock haircut, that was something that needed to be planned ahead. So they knew they would book 4 appointments out, and we were always booked flat out. But since the online booking, they're like, oh no, I'll go on at like 2 in the morning when I, have my calendar in front of me. So I don't love that part of it.
Like when it comes to my aesthetic services, I won't usually go to a salon or a spa.
But it won't book online.
Yeah.
I know.
So just saying, right? I'm with you, Elaine.
It's beneficial when you have a built clientele, but I do understand what you mean.
Yeah. Online's the way of the world.
Yeah, I agree. That's the thing. Everywhere. Instant gratification.
That's right.
Book the appointment.
I love to book at 2 in the morning. Yes. That's my favorite time. The only time I have for myself.
I was going to say that's your only time.
Yes.
Okay, so going from that to, let's head into a little bit more color theory, because you are the color expert.
This is why, we're so excited to speak to you about
Yes. So do you have like specific formulating questions that you want to ask Elaine?
So first of all, I just want to address, your hair looks beautiful.
Yes.
So can you share, like, for who does your hair?
Well, my issue is, I talked earlier about how much of a control freak that I am.
You do your own hair.
No. And God bless anyone who does. There's a lot of hairdressers who do. I don't get it. I tried it once when I first moved here, and I was like, you just can't.
No, you can't.
You can't reach everywhere. I did some bathroom balayage. I'm not going to lie. I did that when I first moved here. But no, I am such a freak about the way that I want it done, and I'm so controlling that I would be any hairdresser's worst nightmare. And I don't think it's fair to like subject someone to that. So I have just literally been flying back I've been, working around my schedule that I can be where my best friend Ray does my hair and one of the girls that I train does my hair. So both of them take turns doing it, and I can boss them around. I literally mix it myself and make sure that I look at the ratios and that they have it exactly on point. But the key to my color, I'm glad you brought up my color, because one of the questions that you sent to me that you wanted to chat about was base breaking. Mm-hmm. And I am like super exorcist, head spinning on the shoulders, not into base breaking at all, because I was a victim of base breaking brassiness for years. Like every picture in my photo album of my kids being little, every occasion in my life, I have Blarange hair because of this wonderful base break. So literally Behind the Chair show, we were just talking about Behind the Chair. We were at the Behind the Chair show in Miami, and it was maybe 5 years. I'm terrible with time. It goes too fast. Maybe 5 years ago. And my friend Ian, who I love, we met through the hair world. We were in line at lunch. And the one downfall to the BTC events is they don't plan lunch well enough. You have like thousands of bodies piling out of this show, and there's like one restaurant within walking distance, and every single person is in that line, and you don't have time to get a decent lunch. That's okay. So we ended up making connections in line to other hairdressers, and now when I teach, I say some of the best nuggets that I've ever taken in as a hairdresser have happened in lunch at an event, not from the teacher of the event, from another hairstylist at the event. So I was bitching about my color and saying, I'm so tired of it being that like weird, trying to be a level 8 sandy blonde that doesn't exist on the planet. I can't stress that enough. Everybody keeps asking, and it's never happening. Natural level 5. Never happening. 5 wants to become an 8 with no breasts. Never happening. So Ian says to me, why don't you stop trying to lift it and start just blending away your gray with a demi and then highlighting for contrast? And I was like, oh my God, you're a genius. So he formulated me right there in line. And my formula is Redken Shades EQ, equal parts 7NB and 7N. And the reason for the 7NB is in order to cover gray with an acidic liquid demi, you must have at least 1 ounce of the formula needs to be an NB to get that tone in there to do something to the gray.
Does it need to be NB specifically, or just a warm?
specifically NB.
Oh. I actually use the NB a lot.
Oh, do you?
Yes, and I tone with NB, and I do like melt. It's like a root smudge. Yeah. Do not. I do a root smudge with 7 NB all the time. And I didn't know why. I didn't know why I loved it, but I was just getting good results. And so
the reason behind that is what makes the NB necessary? Like, what does that do?
So I don't think that Redken designed it this way because their letters are fucked up in my opinion. Like the AA, when you look at an AA as a colorist, you think double ash, awesome, right?
You as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many people do you think put that bozo Ronald McDonald Auburn on people's heads?
Is that what
it's
AA
Auburn. It's bright.
What would you think?
I would think it's a double ash.
Yeah.
Oh my. See, that's scary.
It is scary. Why would they do that? I don't know why they did that because every other line it's ash. So
this is why we swatch every single color that comes in the book.
Exactly. So in my mind, this is just my personal thing. It's not endorsed by Redken. I don't work for Redken. Everybody thinks I do because I love shades and I talk about it all the time. But when I'm picking up a bottle of NB, I say in my mind, natural balance. I think to myself, this is a balance of all the things that are necessary in the color wheel, the combination of the red, yellow, and what is it?
Red, yellow, blue.
Red, yellow, and blue. It's all of that in order to be a neutral enough shade to be able to deposit in the gray. That's what gray's missing is the 3 of those things.
So can you tell us like what your process would be? So I'm assuming
for her hair?
Yeah, for your hair. So I'm assuming what your
application is?
Sure.
Yes. I would love to guess. Okay, so your natural level would be a 5 with I don't want to offend you.
Don't worry about it. I won't get offended.
40% gray. And then I'm assuming it is highlighted. Highlights or like foil / balayage. I see bigger pieces of blonde and then like a baby light type of thing.
Yeah.
And then a color melt with shades.
And do you have some lowlights in your hair too?
I don't know, do I?
So my guess, and so I don't know, so Daniela's our master stylist. I actually was her.
I hate that term.
I was her assistant, so I'm newer to the game. But.
Hate it.
Okay, so my guess would be you're a natural level 5. I'm gonna put your gray at a 25%.
Oh, stop!
You're such a suck up.
And I'm guessing that you do probably a 3/4 foil. Underneath is colored, so below the occipital. And then I'm going to guess that you leave out your money piece. So these are just like sliced foils. Then you baby light. And then at the sink, you do a root smudge or color melt.
Color melt.
Color melt. Am I right?
You both have different parts, right? So I don't ever do a full melt or a full glaze. I'm a raw blonde girl. I know glazing's like the hip buzz thing right now, but I love me a good raw blonde. It's just.
Well, she argued with me, told me that you should never leave blonde raw. I love leaving blonde raw.
I didn't think it could look like yours though.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Anytime I glaze it, I get that like dulled down, like I lost my pop when I do it. Even when it's done properly and it's formulated perfectly, it just feels to me. So to the point where, again, this goes back to me being a pain in the ass. When they put my roots on, I just had it done a couple weeks ago. And when she put the shades on my regrowth, I absolutely insist that she puts the heaviest, thickest conditioner all on my existing blonde while that touch-up sits on there. Because the liquid acidic color, especially Shades EQ, tends to do the landslide. It creeps down the hair, and it creeps just enough that I feel like my highlights are gone, and then I want more highlights, and it's this whole never-ending loop. So, yeah, I make her cover it up with heavy-duty conditioner, and then I'm like, get it off with the highest pressure water that you possibly can. I make her, hang this part out of the sink, because I don't even want it.
Don't let the root color tone down the blonde.
Exactly. I don't want that murky,
I love
sink
that.
water
So
dinge.
Tell us your process. Like, what is the
So
process?
it depends. Like this past time, I really didn't need a whole lot because now I live in Florida, so I'm in the sun. So I made her, Taylor hit that on the spot. I made her do just a couple money piece foils in the front because I wanted to protect that bold pop.
Yep.
And then she just did my regrowth, no Oliver glaze, no root melt, no none of that.
Just a root touch.
Just a touch up.
With the shades. Does she use the gel developer versus the liquid?
I usually do just because it doesn't slide as much as the liquid, but it's not necessary. And the regular is fine too.
You're touching up. And what is your natural? Level 5 with what's your grade?
It is. Can I really be a dirty girl? It is crotch hair brown. I have crotch hair brown hair.
That's not a great color pair to have.
I think that's worse than mousy brown.
Yep. I'm going to use that term from now on, though.
I use it with my clients. I'm so rude. I'm like, oh my God, you're crotch hair brown. We need to spice you up. Because nobody wants their hair to look like a vagina.
As we previously learned, the carpet does match the drapes.
It does match the drapes. We looked into this, and it is true.
Well, God made us that way.
That's right.
My carpet is 40% too.
Okay, 40%.
Perfect.
You have that to look forward to when you start to look down and say, oh my
not there.
God, what happened? What happened down there?
So you're 40%.
I am 40%. And I have a really resistant patch like under here that is almost 100%. And the Shades EQ does not fully cover that, but I'm okay with that. I would much rather sacrifice a little bit of the gray coverage to not have that damn warmth and blange that comes out like all day long. I'd rather have.
You have the blonde blending that's going to blend
beautiful.
That anyway.
Yeah. Your hair
what happens is, this is what's amazing about, I keep saying Redken Shades EQ, but any acidic liquid demi. Do you girls know the difference between acidic and alkaline and why you use which? Because this is a good learning moment. If not.
Not that well.
We would love it if you would explain it to
yeah,
us.
absolutely, please.
Okay. So you have to think of acidic liquid color, aka Joico Lumi Shine, Beth Minardi, Liquid Demi, Redken Shades EQ. It comes in a bottle. It's very loose and liquidy, and it glides on the hair really well. That result is always going to be a translucent, shimmery, shiny. It's like if you were to look at a glass of iced tea, you can see the color of the iced tea, but I can see you through it. If we're at lunch, I can see your face through it, where a chocolate milkshake might be the same color brown, but I can't see through it. So an alkaline cream demi, like a Wella Color Touch, what else?
Sephora would be.
Yeah, any other cream tube demi is an alkaline based demi. The beauty of those is it will behave exactly like your permanent color with the exception of the lift. So people will write to me and they'll say, you say your formula is Shades EQ, like doesn't it wash out after 2 weeks? And I'm like, wash out? Like where did that belief come from?
Well,
like these are
blowing my mind right now. I have never ever for 1 second thought to do a client's retouch with shades ever.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought the same thing. Like, well, it's truthfully, I'm like, it's a toner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's
what I have Shades EQ for.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that's what so many people refer to it as a semi. They'll say, oh, I threw a semi. A semi is Sebastian Cellophanes. It's Clairol Jazzing. I don't even know if it still exists. I'm showing my age again. It's color out of the bottle, squirted onto the hair with no developer, zero mixing of two things together. That's a true semi. Yeah. So people refer to shades as a semi. I'm like, it's not a semi, it's a demi. And the dye loads are the same. Redken liquid color gels and Redken Shades EQ have the same amount of deposit, but they don't have, the shades doesn't have the lift. So think of how many times you've said to yourself, like, this client just wants her gray touched up and she doesn't want all that underlying pigment coming out. She just wants the gray gone. That's 85% of our business.
Blows my mind.
I have a question then. Does the alkaline versus acidic, does that change how much like the cuticle is opened or how easy it is to seal the cuticle
there's no
afterwards?
peroxide in the developer, right?
In what?
In shades?
Is there? Yeah.
There is.
Yeah. The developer, it's an equivalent to like a 5 5 volume developer.
Well, so it's only opening it like it's only.
It's like picture like shingles on a roof, and regular 20 volume would kind of lift it all the way up and put something under, and then you put it back down. Where shades is kind of like going like just like a tiny just little bit where it's like getting in that first level.
Okay.
But it's enough. Trust me, the deposit, like I get just as much time out of a retouch as someone who has permanent color and 20 volume all day long.
And now, would you say that you have less, and then there's less warmth exposed as it's starting to like fade?
Way less.
Well, there's no warmth. None.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to do this in the next 2 weeks of my hairdressing career, and I'm going to tag you in every single post that I post because
I love it.
This changes my life. My biggest question that I always post on forums, that I always send to like hair educators is when I am doing a foil and a client wants a root color in between, how the fuck do I get rid of the warmth?
Yeah.
How do I get rid of the warmth? And no one can ever tell me, and I have never, ever used shades out of all the time that we've had it as a way to cover gray.
So, but then if that's the case, which I love, and I didn't know that, so thank you for explaining that. But you couldn't, it's not like we could go in and do 3 levels of lift.
You can't do any
between.
Lift. You can't
Obviously.
do any lift. Yeah.
So it's on level or lower.
But here's the deal, Taylor. When you're doing that 3 levels of lift, this is my biggest, like this podcast will be 7 hours long if I really go off. But here's what happens. We go through, I shouldn't say, I always make too big of an overarching statement. Most women want to be lighter than their natural with their gray covered with highlights. That's my whole clientele looks like me. They don't want the gray anymore. They don't want the crotch brown hair. They want like a prettier version of their natural with some pretty bold highlights and everything to look natural.
Wants that. Everyone.
Right. So here's what everybody does. Okay, my client is a level 5 and her highlights are a 10. So I want her root area to be like an 8 because I want there to be contrast, but I want her to be noticeably lighter because let's face it, if we take a 5 to a 6, is she going to notice? Absolutely not. If we take her from a 5 to a 7, she's going to be super orange and still not really notice. So the minimum that you want to do is take her to an 8. So every manufacturer, and this is when I can make that big, bold statement, every manufacturer teaches if your client is a level 5 and she wants to be an 8, use an 8 with 30 volume because you're lifting 3 levels. Bullshit. Right. Bullshit. Does not work, is not true. Bullshit. So that's the biggest, if I could get up on stage, say that one statement, drop the mic and walk off, I could change everybody's career because that's the biggest thing that we fight in the salon every fucking day all year long.
Elaborate, what would you do then in that situation?
Exactly what I just told you I do to me. Yeah. For years, I tried everything, permanent color, base break, highlight and then tone it, like all these different things. And I'm like, I just want my own natural hair minus the gray with highlights.
Yeah. Everyone does.
Yeah. Just your hair, but better a little bit.
My hair, but better. I just want a little help.
You have 40% gray. What if someone has 70% gray?
Then you have to do permanent, unfortunately. Okay. Yeah.
So what is the gray ratio that shades just doesn't cut it anymore?
My gray patch. Let me see if I can find it without looking like a total crazy person. Is she there?
Yep, I see it.
Somewhere in there. And it's really like 100% white. And I just had it done and it's still there because it doesn't cover that. But that's okay. It's under my little swoopy here.
You would rather
and it's hidden. I'd rather that than the orange. And I get really creative. Like if a client is really adamant that every single gray be covered because some of them have nothing better to do than to look at every single hair on their head, then I will do permanent just on that patch. Yeah, and then everywhere else do the demi.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of multiple formulas depending on their gray.
And you know what? I think hearing you say that, it makes the difference between a kitchen stylist and going to a salon to a professional.
And also dyeing your own hair.
Or dyeing your own hair. Yeah, you can just slap it on your head.
Right, that's the difference. Because they won't, they'll say, clients will say, oh, it's so expensive. You're just putting one color all over my head. You're just applying color. And you're like, no, that's not true, because that's the reason that you look like you have a dead animal on your head when you dye it yourself, because you're doing one size fits all.
Yeah,
and putting it all over. Let's just talk about the box of hair color. Like, do you really think Beyonce has Jay-Z applying her L'Oreal preference, whatever?
I was going to say, I hope so, because that would be actually awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I hope that.
But like the women in that aisle in the drugstore, they believe that. Like, they're like, oh my gosh, Beyonce, I want that color. Yes. And then it'll be like dark, bronzy, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, that equals orange. Like, honey, when you put that on your hair, you're going to be orange. And then you're going to call the Clairol hotline. Yes. And then the Clairol hotline is going to send them to you, the hairdresser. But Clairol's the one selling them the stuff to mess it up. It's like this whole mess.
Yeah, I have a hilarious story. So my sister-in-law, which I think you've met, Janelle.
Yes.
She is a preacher's daughter, literally. So shout out to Janelle if you're listening. But she's very innocent and she's so sweet. But I did a color melt on her hair last year. So do you remember? It was probably one of my best actually ever done.
Is this like
the red one?
Yeah, the red.
So it was like a level 6 red root into, I used like the L series for Schwarzkopf. Anyways, it was kind of like a brighter red into like a copper.
Like looked like fire.
It looked like fire.
Right.
Cool.
But I went down to visit her a couple weeks ago, and she shows me a picture, or not a picture, she shows me a box of like magenta, metallic, level 9 purple.
For sure.
And she goes, I'm putting this on my hair tonight.
She's previously colored in.
Yeah, and red.
Yeah, really. That's not happening.
Red. And so I looked at her and I said, Janelle, that's not going to do anything. But in her mind, she looks at the box and she's like, if I put this on my head, this is what I'm going to get.
That's right. Why wouldn't she think that?
Yeah. But I think I insulted her a little bit because I'm like, I just can't believe you would think that.
But touching on the reds, this is one of my questions, and I really, I have a feeling we're going to maybe be able to do a follow-up interview if you will willingly do this one day.
We love you.
Sure.
But my biggest struggle in my career as a hairstylist, and I am confident in the majority of things I do, is reds. Mm-hmm. I don't do a lot of reds. I never have. I avoid them. I don't feel confident doing reds. Is there like a general tip?
Like a quick tip?
Yes, 100%. 100%. And this is perfect to bring up. So in my book, on one of the pages, I have a mother and daughter side by side. And the mother has 100% white hair that she's covering gray, and she wants to be a copper, a very bold copper for someone of her age, but not like funky fashion, just like a really pretty,
real,
like strawberry coppery kind of blonde. And she wants no one to know that she colors her hair. She thinks that people think it's natural. And she said people stop her everywhere she goes. So her daughter is standing right next to her in the picture. Of course, I do have it right here. I'll show you. See if I can get it on the camera. Their formula is exactly the same, the two of them. But because the daughter has naturally pigmented hair and gray.
Wow.
So look at the difference. Like the daughter is so much deeper, so much more like a darker copper, and the mom is more like that sunny golden copper. But this is what happens. Hair colorists in general think in their mind in the land of the swatch book. And it makes my blood boil when people are like, oh my God, I lost my swatch book. How can I buy one? And they're buying them on Facebook Marketplace things for $50. I'm like, damn, I've thrown so many swatch books away. I could have been cashing in on those bitches. But I never, ever use a swatch book. There's no reason for it. It's yak. It's fake yak hair.
So what do you think about people?
It doesn't do. Oh, no, you're killing me. I'm trying to break out in hives. No. So we think in our mind that because the swatch was done in a factory on white hair, that, this magical tool that we call a swatch book, that, and in the case of those women, like a 7 CG or GC, like a golden copper, if I want that color, that's the color I'm going to use, right? Isn't that how we all kind of thought when we were right out of beauty school, and some still think? Yeah, desired shade. Oh, the swatch says it. But the swatch is done on non-pigmented hair, or in some cases, like a straight up level 5, depending on what the company does. But it's not you're not working on a plain blank canvas. Yeah. So what's coming to the party is what's already in the hair naturally. Then when you use a higher level and you're lifting, you're inviting all of the remaining pigment contribution that's disrupted because of the pheomelanin. So you're bringing all this warmth to the party. So if you use a 7CR or a 7GC or one of those like bold colors, you're going to get this hot ass, scary root. And then the ends are going to brown out because you didn't do the lifting on the ends. So that's where your red issue. Here's the hottest tip I can share with you in this short time. When you have someone that wants a red result, in my business, and I'm with you, I don't do funky reds. I don't do crazy red. Like, I'm very timid when it comes to my reds. Yes. If someone wants a red result, if they're deeper in their natural color, I let the lifting of the color bring the natural red to the party. I don't add any red.
Oh, okay. Wow. First of all, you just blew her mind.
This is what I'm saying.
So not only are you looking at the underlying pigment, but you're thinking of where it's going, and that's contributing to what you're adding.
The warmth contributing. This is the story of my life. So my fear is always being too bright.
Yeah.
It's always my fear because of the underlying pigment. That's why I'm using
And especially, this is the deal with reds. The prettiest reds live in that 5, 6, sometimes 7 zone.
Coppery
so
red,
that's where the most natural underlying warmth comes in when you're lightening. That's that zone of warmth naturally. So here's the deal. You have a brunette that wants to be really red. A level 7G, just a gold, is going to make her a flaming redhead because now you're cooperating with what Mother Nature brought to the party.
Yeah, you just blew my mind right now. See, I'm always dropping formulas over.
This is what I'm telling you.
Okay. That is amazing. That's honestly, I would say, and we've done tons of research on this podcast for all different kinds of things. That's probably the best little kernel of a fact kernel
you could possibly give.
Yeah. So when I teach formulation, I say if you want a warm result, a warm brown, a red, anything warm, the percentage in your formula for your gray coverage should be a G, not an N. I can't tell you how many times I see like a formula with like an ounce of N, and then they're using like rocket fire, using like additives and boosters and all that stuff. And I'm like, why did you put the N in there? You don't even need it because G will cover gray just as well as N. It's just a warmer result. So the G brings out all the natural red, and you don't even need, like, those two women have a very small percentage of the formula of actual red.
So is this all information you can find in your book?
In my book is the very introduction to it, but it can be by itself. It's not going to change your career. It'll be like what we're talking about. Like, oh my gosh, I never knew that. I want more. Yeah. But the more is my online coaching, my programs. Like I walk you through
these live Q&As that you're doing on the Mondays, which we mentioned in our last podcast. Is that the type of thing that people can ask you about?
Yeah, like but again, one question on a live Instagram is never enough. It's
no.
A whole thing that you have to like you two, I can tell, are going to end this podcast and you're going to try this tomorrow.
Totally.
100%.
But like 85% of the people listening are like, she's out of her mind. I'm doing it the way I always do it. And that's why they are the 5% that will not renew their license because
that's right.
They can't be taught or helped. And that's the part that I have to own and embrace and know that I can't help everybody. But the ones that jump in and on board and trust, like I just got a really nice note this morning from a girl that like totally trusted and did, what is in the program. And she's like, wow, like what a difference. But
you'll get my notes. You wait. When I tag you in everything I do from here on forward, because I don't have brassy level 8 roots anymore. Yeah. You will see.
Now you look so much like the girl that's in, what's the movie with Leo DiCaprio that was Wolf of Wall Street?
I don't know. If I'm in a movie with
Leo DiCaprio. No. She's saying you look like that Margot Robbie.
Margot, yeah.
Oh, like the most beautiful woman in Hollywood. God. Hold on.
And you need her color. Get that damn base break off your head. You have those gorgeous eyes.
Natural hair color.
You need to be cool. You need to be cool blonde.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, I hate how warm my hair is right now.
Interesting.
But I'm a natural level 7.
She's lucky. She's lighter.
And then
Or even better, you should be easily turned into a pale.
Ironically, I really like my hair to be like a level 4.
Yeah.
Really?
She likes the dark side.
Oh, you could totally pull that off with your light eyes, but I want to see you like you need to channel your inner Margot.
So kind of transitioning back, so how do they can go on your website and sign up for your like online education? You offer one-on-one classes with people. Is that?
A little bit of everything, but my favorite thing to do is have people I have a monthly membership that it includes, the modules of my online course, 1-by-1 videos you can watch at any time. And then once a month, we get together and do exactly what we're doing right now. We get on a Zoom call where I can see everybody. And that's when we do the troubleshooting and the hot seats. And that's where the biggest nuggets come from, where someone will say, I have a client, she has hot roots, what did I do wrong? And then we'll kind of dissect it and talk about it. It's always the little things, like the using the G instead of the N and using the demi instead of the permanent. Like it's always like the tiny little tweaks that make the biggest difference overall and just change. My favorite quote is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's exactly how hair color is.
That's the podcast.
That's the title of our podcast. Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, so honestly, like I feel like I could talk to you for 5 hours and we have a million other questions. So I would really love to do a follow-up podcast if you wouldn't mind. Like we'll make this, we're going to do like a part 1 and a part 2 if that's okay.
Can I hit one more?
Yes.
Do you mind? Just like the
no, not at all.
Now that I have you here, just in case. Do you feel like there is a formula out there that can give the style? Yeah.
White.
Tell us how to do it, Elaine. We need to know.
White blonde.
No, it's Photoshop.
No, of course it's not. Have you ever seen someone walking down the street with white hair?
I have seen it, but it's trashed, ready to fall off the head hair. Like it's not.
Right.
It's not going to stay around very long.
No.
I think when you see people like in magazines and on TV and all your, Christina Aguilera's and so forth, they have so many other things going on, extensions and
contrast and lighting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it can be done, but in my opinion, God didn't make us, we talked about the carpet and the drapes and all that. We joked about it, but like we were made
white. Oh.
Yeah.
White drapes.
You know what? Actually, that's quite the
God.
thing to think about. Interesting.
But if God made us with our eye color, our skin color, and our hair color all being cohesive, and then we get in there and we fuck everything up. We're like, oh, I need to be this color and I need to be that color. And the prettiest that you see people, the state that they're in is like, you guys are too young, but like Cindy Crawford is a gorgeous model. She was born a brunette and she gets like sun-kissed, pretty caramely pieces, but she doesn't.
Not too far from her natural. Yeah. Just enhances it. Always the best. Yeah.
Okay.
That's my theory.
So when a client comes in, just kind of circling back, and they ask for white hair, what do you recommend we say to them?
I say get a wig, and they laugh. And they're like, no, seriously. And then I say, are you willing to see me every 2.5 weeks? Because that's what it really takes to be a beautiful double process blonde, because your hair grows so quickly that you look awful. Like you have that little bit of, regrowth right away. And it looks, when you first get it done, it looks like black pepper on your scalp. Yeah. Like it just is not pretty. And it's just an exhausting upkeep. Now there's people like, who's the guy now? Zach, somebody who's like the king.
Mesquite.
Yeah.
Perfection.
I mean, he's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's doing it. So it can be done.
Yes.
But I think that most women in our, everyday clientele are not willing to put the work and the expense into maintaining that look well enough. And then it just makes your work look bad when you give in.
Oh, for sure. The second I tell someone that the only way they're going to maintain that is if they're here every 3 to 4 weeks, it's a no.
Yeah. So I'd rather see them do a blonder version of what I have plenty more hair that can be highlighted lighter if I wanted that Q-tip all over light look, which I don't anymore. Like I look at pictures of myself and when I tried to be blonder, I don't find all one color blonde as interesting as I love dimensional hair.
I was the same.
Elaine, you are speaking to her. We were just talking about this.
And 4 months ago, I was a platinum blonde, like blunt bob. And the second summer came in Canada, which is very, very short season, and I got a slight bit of tan, I was like, oh, like I look ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just too extreme. You feel like you need extra makeup. I want to see if I can bring up a picture for you on my Instagram. There's a client that I use in all of my in-person classes who she had to cheat on me. And I tease her and say that she got the herpes of cheating on your colorist. She got the blarn first.
Oh my God, so am I.
That is amazing.
Her color is what I'm thinking for you. She still has a nice, strong root and contrast, but it's like a nice pale blonde, and her cut is she might not be on my Instagram.
I just love to kind of looking at you while you're looking at that you have a raw blonde, because I feel like things went from untoned to like then now for the last 5 years everyone's fucking overtoning.
Overtone, yeah. And I think the overtoning, can you see that?
Yes, it's beautiful, yeah.
So it's like nice and pale and dimensional and really like it would really make your eyes pop, but it's not overly high maintenance because it has a lot and your natural's pretty, so it would have that natural depth. But you want, even though you're naturally a 7, you want, if you're going to go blonde, you want to cool down everything so that you don't end up looking like
this is super
ginger spice.
Yeah.
I don't love that red and blonde combination of like a ginger spice. I like either blonde and blonde or brown and blonde. I don't love red and blonde.
Red. Okay, agreed. Well, yeah. I mean, red and blonde's a hard thing to pull off anyways. I know.
We're gonna save this.
We're gonna let you go, Elaine, because I feel like
this was amazing. It superseded. What's the word?
Yeah, superseded.
Surpassed.
Of an interview.
I do have to say, Elaine, that we're probably, Danielle and I are breaking up, and I can't be her friend anymore because you think she looks like Margot Robbie, and
also
I can't keep up with that, so I'm splitting away.
Well, you're Hayden Panettiere from Nashville.
Oh I was just waiting for a compliment from you. So. Thank you.
Okay, so you're pretty much telling us right now that you promised a second interview?
Absolutely, 100%. I would love it.
Got you. No, I'm just kidding. But honestly, all joking aside, and that's probably it's probably the best interview we've ever done, we'll ever do.
It's our first interview.
Our first
maybe our last.
You're amazing. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out, like what you offer and the fact that, you have your book for sale on Amazon. You also have your classes that you can go to your website.
Free online.
And free, like who does that? How do you have time for that? And you have 2 kids and you're a wife. Like,
my wife. I don't cook though. I don't cook or clean or do.
Oh, that's a key.
Wait a second. Your husband
Dean's listening.
Okay. My husband, I told my daughter that I always said I wanted an Alice Brady. My husband is amazing.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
My husband said he's hoping that I become his sugar mama from life. So he would cook and clean for me if I could.
Dean's on live right now. Thumbs up, he says.
Hey, my husband's watching right now.
There you go. Well, we're gonna get you there. We're gonna get you being a couture colorist with higher prices, and you're gonna be sugar mama.
So
but don't give up your time with your kids because you can't get it back.
Good call.
Trust me.
I'm gonna live.
It's all about balance. I think 3 days in the salon is absolutely perfection.
What we're going for.
That's our goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, Elaine, you're my Beth Minardi.
That's my Margot Robbie compliment. I love that. Thank
Here
you.
go. So complimenting each other.
I love it. Women, inspiring women. Yes, but we're definitely gonna stalk you, and
in the meantime,
But
we'll definitely set up a second interview. But in the meantime, we appreciate the time you gave us today. Yes. And
it was a pleasure.
Yeah.
I will take what you've told us and I will apply it in the salon and we'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I look forward to it. Take care. Have a great day.
Yes, you too.
So much.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.